Having a recap of last week's verses, verse 6 and verse 7. So, one of the ideas that comes out very well in this particular composition is how the human mind moves away from the experiences and when we say experiences, we also look at what keeps us motivated in life. And in those experiences and our motivations in life, we seem to have a very strong preoccupation with the world outside and the objects which attract our attention. But at some point in this whole desire fulfillment and cycle of seeking things in the world, there will be some deeper questions that will arise. And one tends to find these questions arising, and each one trying to find answers, and potentially these answers are not found in the manner in which we have learnt about the world and about sense enjoyments. So that phase is termed as Jignasu. So that is what Swamiji has explained by saying 5 fundamental questions can happen to you, and exploring those questions transforms your mind to seek some answers. And these answers you will try to seek by maybe talking to people, reading books, etc. So that is your Jignasu stage of life, or seeker stage of life, the early seeker stage of life. Then in verse number 6, he goes slightly deeper and he says, the seeker who is trying to find answers to very apparently profound questions, but which don't beget answers in the world outside, don't beget answers from the material seeking, somehow will have to find the answers through some other method. And this is where this other method is seeking the guidance of a guru. So in this particular verse, verse number 6, it begins with saying, having learned from the scriptures that this self-knowledge cannot be gained by mere logic alone, he, endowed with virtues like discrimination, dispassion, self-control, and so on, approaches a teacher and serves him. Such a person is the best disciple. So, while the teacher here in this verse is telling us that the scriptures and the books which explain the self-knowledge are guidance, and they are fraught with what is called as the technique of logic. So what does the technique of logic enable an individual? The technique of logic enables an individual to wean oneself away from the world and away from the world of attachments and aversions. So that is exactly what we were discussing before the start of the class, saying the world and its experiences seem to drive us into a condition where we are very impressed and very sustained by the experiences, the feelings, the emotions, the tragedy, the success, the joys that it generates. But the scriptures and the teaching of the scriptures gives us a very different logic altogether. This logic is not self-knowledge. This logic promotes the detachment, the weaning away from the world. Therefore, that logic is significant. So therefore, many people ask the question, when self-knowledge can't be attained from books, why read books at all? Self-knowledge can't be attained by books, but at least the beginning of self-knowledge is trying to impress the mind that the solution for freedom, liberation, release from attachments and aversions doesn't lie in the current experience with the world. This awareness, this understanding itself is a very tough one. For gaining this, the scriptures are very useful. But just because we have read the scriptures, ruminated upon them, got this knowledge, embedded ourselves with this logic, is it sufficient to take us forward into what is called as the state of final seeking of liberation, which is given a word in spiritual seeking by the name mumukshutva? And we know that there are several categories of mumukshutva, several categories of seekers of liberation. and we want to be the final class or the best in the class of seeking liberation. For being such a best in class, it is not up to us. It has to be at the feet of a master who is already established in absolute truth. Now, this word at the feet of the master can also be a contradiction. The contradiction arises that when the truth is self-knowledge, how is it going to be available outside of one when actually the knowledge is within one? So this contradiction is resolved. The scriptures have resolved this idea, saying that this guru whom you seek outside, as if to say you are seeking the feet of that gentleman or that lady or that guru, whatever be the personality, is actually invoking the truth in you. He is not demonstrating the truth in themselves. They are not demonstrating the truth in themselves. They are invoking the truth in us or evoking the truth in us. This is so beautifully and amply demonstrated whenever we read poetry or whenever we listen to a very profound devotional music, etc. We know that this poetry is being recited as if to say, I listen to the poetry. That means it is happening outside of my physical frame. But the experience of resonance, the experience of oneness with the words of the poet doesn't happen outside. It happens within one. The same thing is about the Brahmanishta. The teacher who is established in Brahman, he is established or she is established as if to say, it is not in me. But should we hear the words from such a teacher? Should we be in the midst of such a teacher? Sometimes even without words, the experience of oneness happens and the experience of self-knowledge happens almost as if it is being revealed to oneself within oneself. So that is how this mechanism of what Swamiji explains as saying, the true disciple is one who approaches the teacher and serves him. So the approach of a teacher, approach to the teacher and service to the teacher seems to be two personalities are involved. There is a disciple and there is a teacher. But the experience of freedom or the experience of self-knowledge is actually happening in only one. So whether you call it is happening in the disciple or it is happening in the teacher, when it is happening only in one. So Raman Maharishi and such other saints, including Nisargadatta Maharaj, have made it amply clear. Nisargadatta Maharaj used to say, if you have spent 6 weeks or 8 weeks, something like that, he used to give a time, listening to me, you have no more business to warm the, they used to have a small 3 feet by 3 feet mat in the room where he used to talk. So he would say, there is no more any need for you to warm that mat. You have to just get up and go. If you get up and go, somebody else will come and sit. And then he would also confirm to that gentleman or the lady, whoever is leaving, that don't think that I have left you or you have left me. The seed of thought, the seed of logic or the seed of seeking that is there in your heart will burn as long as you are alive. And that seed of your seeking is what that will reveal the truth to you directly without any medium. Raman Maharishi said the same thing. He said, if you think that this teacher who is sitting in front of you is suffering or is going to die or is not going to be available, then your entire impression of taking guidance from a guru has been wrongly conceived. The real conception is that the truth that you are seeking and the teacher from whom you are seeking are the same. The truth cannot leave you, just as the teacher also cannot leave you. So if you think that by the perishing of the physical form of the teacher has gone, then you have to also believe that the truth has gone, which cannot be. The truth is the substratum, it cannot go. If the truth is substratum, it cannot go, the teacher also cannot go. So time and again people have experienced this. Long after Raman Maharishi has passed, he has remained the guide for so many people directly, almost as if to say in physical form. And for many people in a subtle way, in terms of teaching, in terms of vision, in terms of guidance, whatever. So people have received. So we have a confirmation that when it is said by Swami Tejamananda in this composition, that having endowed with spiritual qualities such as viveka, discrimination, vairagya, dispassion, and shat sampati, the six qualities, and mumukshutva, one seeks the teacher, one is actually seeking truth. And when we are staying with truth or staying with the teacher, the revelation is bound to happen. So, how quickly it happens, when it happens, how it happens, has always remained a mystery, and it will remain a mystery. But the timelessness of the event contradicts the effort involved in arriving at that point. So that means, suppose someone says, I have been a seeker for 40 years. It is quite immaterial when one arrives at truth. If you say, I have been a seeker for 4 months and you arrive at truth, or you have been a seeker for 40 years and arrive at truth, the truth is the same experience whether it is 4 months or 40 years. And it doesn't differentiate between this effort, a long-standing effort or a minimum effort. It doesn't differentiate. The truth experience, the condition is the same. Both will enjoy the same fulfillment, exactly the same as anyone else in that condition. So that is the meaning of saying we are not doing anything specifically different, but we are all doing as per our own stage and station in life, in our own given state of mind, etc. But we are all seeking and moving towards the same truth. So that is what is obvious when we think of Brahmanishta, the teacher who is established in truth. The next one, verse number 7, is about Guru Ruvacha. That means as if the Guru himself is talking. How does the Guru say what he says? He says, whatever is seen, inert, ever-changing, illusory, perishing, is indeed not self. The self alone is the seer of the nature of pure consciousness. Neither is the self seen, nor is it bound. Now this is a very interesting verse by itself. If you start with the last statement, which is in this verse, which says, neither the self is seen, nor is it bound. Now, when the statement is passed, it is not to describe the self. It is to actually alert the seeker of the experience of not self. So, what is my experience of not self? So, most people in study groups, whenever we discuss about truth being ubiquitous, the substratum, etc., ask a very fundamental question, that I experience sorrow and I experience matter. This sorrow is also real to me and the matter is also real to me. So the sorrow can be either gain of matter, loss of matter. That means if I had something in possession and the possession has gone away, I am sorrowful. Or let us say it is not material. So I had some experience of joy and now that joy has gone away and I'm experiencing sorrow. Both are true. Both are complete, real. Anubhava. It is a part of my experience. But the substratum is not like that. So how do I know that it is the substratum at all? So the scripture is telling us very clearly, and Guru is telling us very clearly, you made a mistake. That what you have seen and that what has kept you bound, the self is not that. The self is free. That is the only reason why you have a constant clamor. If you said that, no, I don't want freedom, then I would have said, okay, that's fine. That means you are not the self, because you have no choice. You have no urge to seek freedom. You have no urge to seek peace. That means those aspects are not yours, so that you cannot seek it. But that is not true. Every one of us, irrespective of the kind of world that we are living in, or irrespective of the condition of experiences that we are going through, do and definitely want the state of peace, definitely want the state of freedom. This definite wanting the state of peace and freedom tells us that whatever is happening is not me, and what is the witness of what is happening, if I can reach out to that condition, reach out to the state of the witness, probably this logic I can derive, this logic I can explain to myself and say that appears to be the real goal, and I can make a search for that. So when we take the last sentence first, we know that the goal is this. Then if you go back into the teaching, what Guru has said earlier, that there is whatever we have been seeing and associating in the world has some characteristics. What are those characteristics? He says it is inert, it is ever changing, it is illusory, and it is perishing. Now, every single individual in this world, whatever be our age, whatever be our experience, etc., the smallest to smallest things to the largest things, if you start analyzing systematically, it will pertain to these four classifications. Whether it is inert, whether it is ever changing, whether it is illusory, or whether it is perishing. Nothing of what we see and experience can come outside of this. If you say something is not inert, it is sentient. Like for example, we often refer to plants as being non-moving but living, and all other kingdom in this, all other animal, insect, and worms or plant, birds, etc., are living, sentient, and moving. So there is sentient non-moving and there is sentient moving. And there appears to be some things which are insentient and not moving. Let us say stones or sand or materials. But a deeper look at that, as last week I had mentioned, there was a scientist in India who developed the crescograph, which actually showed that which is unmoving is responding almost as if it is an emotional living entity. Like he could show that stones can respond to sweet words, they can show movement to music, etc. So that experiment by Professor Jagdish Chandra Bose has actually shown that sentiency is not the preserve of only the living or only the moving creatures. Sentiency is ubiquitous and it is present in all living and non-living. So when we say inert, we have to, it's just a phrase which can be little bit guarded to say actually nothing is inert, everything is sentient. But irrespective of sentient or not sentient, it is always ever changing. It is always perishing. And that which is ever changing and perishing, we'll see in the next verse that we'll discuss, is illusory. That means it is a mere appearance. So in one of the verses that we're going to come through, we'll be talking about that. And these characteristics cannot belong to the self. So that's why it is anatma. So it is not atma, it is not the self, it is anatma. And then he gives assertive declaration. He says, self alone is the seer and is of the nature of pure consciousness. So the idea of seer is the only closeness to that idea of seer is the word witness, which we can experience even today, right now, in the current condition that we are. We can experience the idea of a witness, but we cannot experience the idea of a seer. Because the moment we leave the idea of a witness, there is nothing to witness. In the idea of seer, there is nothing to witness at all. So when we say the nature of the self is that of a seer, then the next statement, that is the nature is that of pure consciousness, is the automatic extension corollary of saying the seer. So very often people ask the question that in meditation, if I come into the state of being a witness, is that the state of oneness? Many teachers have clarified that the state of a witness is a prerequisite or a progressive condition towards becoming one with the pure consciousness. But it is not the state of pure consciousness. Because the difficulty with the state of a witness is, the witness is not being involved in what is witnessed, but the state is dependent on what is being witnessed. If there is nothing to witness, the witness cannot exist. So having said that, it implies automatically that the witness is free from the turbulence of what is being witnessed. So today our problem in life is when we say, I'm facing a lot of pain, I'm having a lot of suffering, I have a lot of sorrow, etc. We are a witness, true, for all of it, but we are also part of the turbulence. But the true sadhaka, the true seeker, will be very comfortable to witness without getting engaged, without becoming a victim of the turbulence of what is being witnessed. So it is the progress of a sadhaka from the witness to the state of a seer, or to become one with pure consciousness. So the witness is always considered as a transitory or a progressive condition in seeking. It cannot be the ultimate condition. So that much is about verse number 7. If there are any questions, we can take it up. Otherwise, okay. We'll go to verse number 8. Yes, Sujata.
I think I find it very tough to digest all of this. It's kind of very abstract, isn't it? Although it does make, but I think you're talking about, I think in the last class, intellect. This is just sometimes beyond your intellect to even interpret. So, where it says, can the seer ever become the seen? What does that even mean? Like, seer, we're talking about a person who's achieved oneness?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
there?
Even before you can ask the question, does the seer mean who is achieved oneness? It is a logical construct. This statement that the seer cannot be the seen is a logical construct, and it's a very powerful logical construct. So it is all in the realm of the intellect. So in the realm of the intellect, what we are trying to say is that if I am able to grab a book with my hands and I consider hands to be me, if I can grab a book, can I say that the book and my hand is the same? Or should I actually say, no, the book is different, my hand is different? So this is the logical way in which seer and seen argument is taken in Vedanta, in scriptural language. And the only guide to do this argument, or to present this argument to the mind of ours, is to say this fundamental declaration: seer can't be the seen. But this argument is still in the realm of the intellect, so we have to be cautious. This is not a Vedantic declaration of final truth. This is a in-stage mechanism. I argued in similar to this argument, seer can't be the seen. I tell that algebra, when we study for the first time and we say that there is a relationship between the father and son, and the age of the father is going to be double that of the son in 5 years' time. What is the son? If the son is so many years, what is the age of the father? So we begin this problem solution by saying, let us assume the age of the father to be X. So this is a logical construct. A child can reprimand the teacher or can challenge the teacher saying, X is not a number, I will not assume. But you can't progress. You have to make that assumption. By making the assumption, you can solve an equation. By solving the equation, you can arrive at the age of the father. The age of father has always been a number. But at the beginning, you have to make an assumption that, let us call it an alphabet. You will say, how funny it is. What kind of crazy mathematics is this? Why should age become an alphabet? Age and alphabet are two different, kettle of fish. They're not of the same. They're not of the same genre. Why should we bring that argument in place? So, but we know that it has to be in place. If it's not in place, you can't solve the equation. Same condition is with what is called as the logic of spirituality, or the logic of Vedanta, and the application of Vedanta. The application of Vedanta is, the truth is one. Whether you call it seer or seen, it is the same truth. But how do I progress to that condition? I progress to the condition in a systematic approach. To make the systematic approach happen, I start with the assumption the seer cannot be the seen. And that allows me to detach. If I did not detach, I would never be in a position to connect at all. But if I'm doing this logical argument steadily and progressively, I'm able to start detaching. And the deeper version of the seer is not the seen, is the Panchakosha, the 5 sheets that we talk about. Another deeper version is the 3 avasthas. That means, am I the condition in which I experience waking? Am I the condition in which I experience dream? Am I the condition in which I experience deep sleep? Or am I the witness of all these 3 conditions? So when we start asking these deeper questions, we say, we have to stop, we have to pause. We cannot just quickly jump to conclusions. So that pause is our solving the algebraic equation in a way. So we have to give ourselves that time. That is why Vedantic pondering, manana, which is part of our study group process, is very profound. And the more you reflect, the more the what I call as the fallout arguments become very transparently true. And in that transparent truth, you are no longer looking for descriptions. You're only looking for very raw experience without any description. So Rupert Spira's talk yesterday, my daughter had gone to London, so we were not there. So she's been telling us that Rupert Spira has started using the word evocation. He stopped using the word description. And the reason why he's using the word evocation, he says the closest you can get to intellectualizing Vedanta, closest you can get to intellectualizing absolute truth is by the mechanism of evocation. Because when you evoke, what you're not trying to do is to describe. You're not trying to describe. If you try to describe, it's an intellectual exercise. But when you evoke, you are actually bringing in the union. You are sharing the union. So he says, the best example of evocation is poetry. So if the poet were to write about apples or write about birds, he is not sitting and describing a bird, but he is evoking a condition in the reader of the poetry, the oneness with the bird. So most people who have read William Blake or Percy Bysshe Shelley or Coleridge or even Wordsworth would testify that I am sitting and I'm transported into a world which is Wordsworth's world. He didn't describe it to me, but he is sharing his condition, and I'm taken into his condition, and I can feel the same like what Wordsworth is feeling. So that Rupert Spira says is the method of the scriptures. So the seer and seen is what one would say as the intellectualization of the evocation condition, which will come later. Okay. Coming to verse number 8.